Hey everybody, I just wanted to chime in to say that I actually lived up to my channel's name for a change, and I actually helped make a game this year. Specifically, I joined the GMTK, or Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam for 2026, and I actually this time joined a team that I wouldn't have to work on it completely by myself. We made ourselves a little game called MEchapocalypse, fighting on Fumes. And so if you want to check that out, there's going to be a link to the itch page in the description down below, as well as a link to the submission page, so that if you want to review it for the Game Jam, you can do that as well. Though you will, I believe, have to complete a queue of other games in order to actually review like games that of your choice. But by all means, check out all of the literally thousands of other games that have been submitted to the jam this year. I think it's over 10,000. Yeah, 10,000 entries all to this one jam. And keep in mind, all these games were made in less than 4 days, which is crazy. But yeah, if you don't mind me turning this into a little bit of a vlog, by all means, check out all the games in the Game Jam. But I just wanted to ramble on about my experience doing this year, because I actually had a lot of fun with it. If you've followed my channel for a while, you'd know that I actually participated in this same Game Jam 2 years ago, but that time I did it completely solo. There was no other help. I did literally everything myself, and just with some like pre-built assets that I could find off the Unity asset store, and that was it. And man, it was stressful. I do not recommend doing that unless you like really prepare like ahead of time. I know some people will create like templates or packages that they can use to, like, you know, make a generic like 2D template or 3D platformer template or something. That way they can kind of hit the ground rolling. I didn't do any of that. I just kind of started from scratch, having no idea what I was doing. And I mean, the fact that I managed to pull through and get something working at the end, I think that's worth an accomplishment. But I will say, I did enjoy working in a team so much more than I did doing this solo. Like, and admittedly, this is not a team of previous acquaintances. This was a completely random group of people that none of us met each other before, like a day before the Game Jam started. We were using Team Finder, and we just kind of grabbed random people, and that's it. So it was a very chaotic sort of hodgepodge as we all got to know each other while also starting on this 4-day Game Jam. But hey, it was, I still think it was a lot of fun, being able to divide up that work across other people, having artists and composers who can make your assets for you so they don't have to rely on pre-made assets. Although I still think, we did steal a couple of assets from like some basic Unity tutorials to use as placeholders, and I think some of them made it into the final game. But like the characters, the music, all that stuff, the title screen, all original, and that was really cool to see. But yeah, and plus there was also other programmers that I was able to have help out with creating the systems and whatnot. So just overall, it was a way less stressful experience. Still stressful towards the end, don't get me wrong. These things, you know, always tend to have a little bit of panic. But I felt so much more, I don't know if relaxed is the right word, but it was a comfortable level of stress, let's put it that way. And yeah, and I mean, hey, we made something. I'll admit, it is extremely rough around the edges. I believe that I think the game's music might kind of fall apart when you go to the shop screen and it never comes back, and I don't know why. So that is something we would definitely be needing to fix once the review period is over, because I want to show off our composer's music. And I mean, it's also not the most balanced game in the world. We had like a couple of hours for playtesting, and we kind of just threw numbers together. But hey, I think it's cool. I think that any game jam that you walk away from with a completed, fully functional game, or at least a mostly functional game, is a success in my book. Especially, again, when we're working with a group of people who literally never met each other before today. So we kind of had to figure out a workflow, figure out who's doing what, throw together a Trello, all this stuff of people who are complete strangers. Or at least strangers at the start of this. was that was its own ordeal. That I think next time I do this, if I can find a team ahead of time and actually coordinate, ideally if it's people I've worked with already, that I think could be really interesting. But yeah, I had a lot of fun, and I'm pretty proud of the game that we made, even if it is a little bit of a rough one. That said, just to talk about the game jam itself, or rather the theme, because the theme this year was really interesting. Because it's weird. I almost felt like it was harder because it was easier, if that makes sense. Usually GMTK themes are very esoteric or vague, because they're meant to kind of be interpreted how you want and encourage out-of-the-box thinking, right? The one I did 2 years ago was built to scale, and so like you can imagine a lot of like size changing mechanics and stuff, and there's a lot of interesting different ways that you could come up with for implementing that kind of theme. Last year was, I think, loop, and again, that's another like interesting sort of vague but creative theme to go with. This year was countdown, and this theme I almost feel like was harder to work with because there's so many obvious ways you could take it. Because the obvious thing to do, like just right off the bat, I mean, it's literally in the video where they announce the theme itself, is just to put a timer on your game. And I mean, that's perfectly valid. I think there's lots of interesting ways to use a timer to create an interesting game. You can make it hectic, like WarioWare, where you only have like 10 seconds to accomplish some kind of task. You could be counting down to some kind of game over state. You could have a turn-based game where you have a limited number of turns, you know, like XCOM 2 style, to accomplish some kind of objective. And so, like, that's all I think well and good, but I wanted to think a little bit more outside of the box when I participated in this. And so me and the team, we kind of brainstormed a few different ideas, and so we ended up going with a theme around resource consumption rather than timers. It is still a turn-based, like, tactical game, but instead of there being a strict limit on the number of turns you get, the idea is that you're piloting a mech powered by fuel, and the fuel runs out with every action you do. So when you move, that costs fuel. When you attack, that costs fuel. And when you get hit and take damage, that also consumes fuel. So everything is tied to this one fuel resource that is constantly, counting down, as it were, throughout a fight, depending on, what you're doing, how many actions you're doing per turn. Because we also added a system where the more you do on your turn, the hotter your mech gets, like it builds up heat, and then that makes it less fuel efficient, so that all of your actions start consuming more fuel. So it's like, if you only do a couple things on your turn, you'll barely consume any fuel, but you'll also barely get anything done and give the enemies more time to wail on you. Whereas you could do a lot of things on your turn and burn through a lot of fuel to try and kill the enemies faster, but then obviously you're burning through fuel. So it's like, it's kind of a lose-lose situation, at least until you clear out all the enemies. So I think that was an interesting way to interpret the game jam, and I am really interested to see what other submissions do that is a little bit more out of the box. Like I said, I'm not saying that any of the submissions are invalid for using a simple countdown timer, but I'm really curious to see what the more out-of-the-box thinking is for this jam. I mean, by all means, my concept that we had for our team was not perfect at all. There are some balancing issues. I think that it might be a bit too easy to conserve your fuel in some cases, but yeah. Still, it was an interesting jam this year, and honestly, the biggest takeaway I think from this is that it's kind of revitalized my interest in doing these. When I did the solo jam 2 years ago, I think it was so stressful and it passed by so quickly that it almost kind of scared me off from wanting to do these too often, which is why I didn't participate last year. But this year, I kind of reluctantly threw up a Team Finder post, figuring like, look, if somebody pokes me and wants a programmer on their team, then maybe I'll go ahead and join. But if not, then it's no big deal. And I was kind of like, you know, wishy-washy about whether I even wanted to participate. But now that I did it, I'm very glad that I did. And honestly, I think I should start looking out for some, maybe some smaller jams. Because I know there's always constantly game jams being done over on itch. And, you know, maybe I should live up to the name of my channel a little bit more and actually start making more games. And really do this more often. Because, yeah, this really revitalized my interest in just booting up a program like Unity or Godot and just making something, you know. And I think that that's fun, and it's always a good thing to do, to just create something, you know, even if it's something simple. It doesn't have to be mind-blowing, but just making something and putting it out into the world, I think, is something worth doing from time to time. But yeah, for now, thank you all for watching. By all means, check out MEchapocalypse on itch. I put a link to the description, as I mentioned earlier, and check out the literal 10,000 other games that were submitted to the Game Jam this year. If you liked the video, make sure to leave me a like and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this in the future. But for now, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.